In today's episode of Sparks and Blues podcast, a show where we uncover insights, ignite meaningful conversations, and navigate the vibrant shades of today's professional world. In today's episode, we are diving into a critical topic for every workplace. The topic for today is driving organizational culture in today's workforce. With the rapid shift in today's work landscape, it has become more important than ever to understand what shapes a thriving workplace culture. To help us decode this, we are joined by a highly accomplished human resource professional who brings over a decade of experience in driving people, in driving strategies, and fostering positive workplace environments. Our guest today is Mr. Biodun Olowokere. Mr. Olowokere has spent more than 10 years helping organizations align their culture with business goals, navigate leadership complexities, navigate leadership diversities, and employee engagement. Mr. Olowokere holds a degree in mathematics from the University of Lagos and also holds a master's in human resource management from Villanova University, USA. We are thrilled to have such a seasoned expert with us today. So without further ado, please welcome Mr. Biodun Olowokere to the Sparks and Blues podcast. I'm so happy to have you here this morning.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
Oh,
It's a pleasure here.
You're so welcome to Sparks and Blues. This is a platform where we intend to inspire our youths, and that is the major reason why we've invited you here today to speak, about your extensive experience in human resources. I'm aware that, you are experienced in oil and gas, telecommunications, consulting, and the likes. So I hope that during this session, you'll be able to, throw more light on those areas, and then you'll be able to inspire our viewers. The topic we have today is driving organizational culture into this workforce. Now, I'm going to start by asking you to share a bit about your role as an HR leader and to talk to us about how your role connects deeply to this concept called organizational culture.
All right, now thank you so much, Joy, for having me, and thanks to Spark and Blue. The concept is very, very welcome, and I think the vision will definitely, shape a whole lot of issues around inspiring youth of our days. Okay, as you rightly read out my profile, my name is Biodun Olowokere. I'm an HR professional, and my experience span across over a decade in the banking, telecoms, oil and gas, and also consulting. I would like to give a deep dive on what organizational culture uh, has to do with HR leadership, because there are two variant point of views. So, and I also like to be very, very detailed and very explicit enough so that listeners or viewers will get a grasp of what I'm saying and make it very, very simple. So most often people mention HR, human resource, some will even mention human resources. And it's very, very important.
Is it human resources or human resource?
Okay, now.
What's the right one actually?
Yes, I think it's actually human resources, because the resources for an organization to go to higher places is actually vast.
Enormous.
Yes. So the most important part of that resources is the human aspect of the resource. So that's why it's human resources.
Oh wow, I see.
And it's a very, very important, aspect of the business and the public organizational setup, because starting from the vision, the cascading the vision of an organization to departmentalizing those vision into getting the right profile and also the job specification and, going through the recruitment and selection to get the ideal candidate. So these are the people that will do the work. Now, that is, HR is there to guide those processes.
Okay.
Now, for culture, the culture on its own side is more like the cornerstone for organizational behavior.
All right.
It is a behavioral pattern within an organization, belief and ways where and how things are done within an organization. I would like to take an example, maybe not an organization, but the country we are, and probably some little of ethnicity. And we know that in Nigeria, there are so many things. When you cite a Nigerian outside, I read in a skit somewhere like we like using words repeatedly like
Yeah,
puff puff, moi moi, chin chin. So when you see
I know.
a Nigerian outside, you could tell, oh, you're a Nigerian. Oh, fine. So somehow it has a way of embedding into our way of belief, our
Okay.
behavioral pattern, and somehow and I'll bring it down to organizational structure, the setting. The culture is a very, very important thing. So now linking the two important topic together, that's what role is HR leadership has to do with
Exactly.
organizational culture. Now, HR plays a very, very important role there in strategically linking those ideas from the management part of it and the people expectation.
All right.
Yeah, because they are two different things. The organization expects that the strategies they put in place towards efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity. Now, HR is to get the human capital that will both graduate from different institutions, experience in diverse sectors, bring those people in, link them with the key strategies for an organization, and for that organization to be profitable and get their market share within the competitive market.
Oh, right. All right, thank you for that one. I what I deduce from there is the fact that you simplified it. You were able to say that, organizational culture is like, the behavioral patterns, the way people are expected to behave.
Yes.
I've been struggling with that. I tend to want to see it as something sort of bigger, but I've also learned from what you just said. You simplified it to just say that the culture in an organization also means the way people are expected to behave inside that
Yes,
organization.
that's very
I think
correct.
that gives it, a very easy balance and makes it simple for us to understand. So in your own view, what do you think makes organizational culture so crucial to a business success?
Okay, fine. That's a very, very strategic question. And the success of an organization has been hinged on so many factors. One of the major factors, one of the major factor here is the human capital, is the respect for human, and the human is going to drive those strategies, no matter how excellent and prolific the strategies are. The human element, considering the human element, is very, very important to the success of that strategy. Now, for an organization to have set a strategy in place from the goal and down from the end-to-end strategy implementation, from developing the strategy down to the execution, it's very, very important that HR play a very, very important role by aligning the key strategy of the organization and the people's skill set. Now, in the simplest form of explanation is about you putting the square peg
Yes.
in the square hole. It's as simple as that because we've seen organization whereby, and in the course of my HR career part, is that you can poach. There are several ways of getting talent
Yeah.
within an organization, and you can have the best performing talent in company A. Now, you this person tick the right boxes, and okay, this actually fits into the profile of the job scope. However, what most organization and what we HR professional fail at times to really consider is that is this person a culture fit does this person's performance, is it as a subject of the culture where he's coming from? Is our culture going to assist or probably help this person perform? Because everybody's got potentials to
Yeah.
perform.
Yeah.
Now, the optimum performance that is expected, because you cannot just come in and earn salary. You must be able to, contribute to the
Bottom
value
line.
proposition for the
Yeah.
organization. Now, when we have a culture that does not reward, a culture that does not celebrate feedback, I can go on and on and on because it's not a one size fits all.
Oh.
Every organization has this culture that makes the business, exceed and productivity level. Now, it's always very, very important to have and probably consider if the organization can be a culture fit for the right person. I have worked in several organizations, both very structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. And what I have come to realize is that the practice, some of us we call it HR-based practice. I tend to beg to differ on that best practice. It's actually the practice that fits into that organization.
Okay.
You understand? So, like a very good example is the 8 to 4. How about me? If I know the looking at my workforce, I have most of them. They are in their late 20s and early 30s. They are just raising families, and I know that within the area of our operations, they need to go through traffic, the work hours, the number of hours they spend in traffic. When they come in, they're already overwhelmed. You can tell when the
Exhausted.
new employee,
Yeah.
your employee resumes work, and before the person, start getting inclined into the job for that day.
They feel worn out.
Yes. So
I
definitely the
know.
company is losing
Value.
that value. So
Okay.
that's why I say it is the practice that fits for the organization to generate their own profitability and
That should
productivity.
be put.
So maybe in the course of that, I will definitely talk about the role HR plays in aligning these cultural values.
All right. Thank you very much, Bjorn. That's quite impressive and extensive. Speaking about how significant culture is, to the success of business. I quite understand that. So there are a lot of factors to consider
Yeah, sure.
in setting the cultures, let me say in designing the culture to run with. You need to look into the people, maybe location where they are more, dominant and all of those kinds of things to even set resumption and closing hours and all of those things because you may just end up losing value like the
Yeah,
example you
sure.
gave.
Yeah.
So that's quite impressive. And I really hope that, our viewers can catch something from that. So talking about leadership and culture, in what ways do you think leaders can indirectly weaken the culture and how can this be avoided? What I mean is, we've seen or heard, staff, personnel, humans, people say things like, oh, it's the boss. Oh, yeah, no, it's the management. I think that's the word, the management. They
Management.
use that word a lot. That is causing this and that to, sort of erode profits or cause this and that to sort of happen in this negative way. So is that true from the human resource point of view, being a human resource leader? Do you think there are ways truly that through which leaders are actually eroding the organizational structure that they are supposed to be driving forward?
Okay. Let me approach this question this way. Understanding leadership and management, it is there's need to understand the level and the layers of influence within an organization. Now, I know I've heard things like, and also be part of it, because for you to be a leader, you must have at a point be a follower.
Definitely.
Now, the leadership we have, whether in the country, in the corporate world, in the office space, or probably at the nuclear front, that's the family, is as a result of what we perceive as the right way of doing things while following. So that's why I always mention that as a leader, you have to be very, very careful of what you churn out because your followers are watching. I actually broke it down to even to our nuclear families. As parents, we are the leaders
Yeah.
in our small units in the home, and the kids are watching.
Definitely.
And the same thing that happens within the corporate world, the office setting. Now, understanding leadership and how it relates to the culture and how whether leadership can actually make or mar
Yeah. The
is
success
the
of the
success.
culture.
And I consulted for a company, and when I was with the MD was very, very, I could feel the pain point, the desire, and the enthusiasm to want to make changes. And it is very, very, it's welcoming and it's expected that a leader at that
Should
side
act
will
that way.
need,
Yeah.
well, a whole lot of changes. But when I engage the stakeholders, those are the head of departments and some other senior staff executive and non-executive directors, was I come to realize there was a clear variance between the ideology and the bigger scope of what the MD is looking at. The middle level managers who happens to be the head of departments and also the junior staff. So these are the three areas: the executive leadership, the middle level leadership, and the other staff. And the junior staff is that I'm breaking it down now. So the junior staff is always like it is we and them. The them are the big boys, the leadership, the management, and not forgetting to know that someday, as a follower, if you're doing the right thing and you are also shown, and you also have the potential to grow within the ladder of an organization, you actually attain that leadership role.
Definitely.
Now, for leadership to influence a culture, whether positive or negative way, is that change or public culturalization has to be deliberate. It has to be intentional from the top. And they are looking at the outlook for 2025. And it's also a very, very good time to tell yourself the truth. That is what organization calls retreats or end of year strategy session. So that I can close this, is that intentional leadership, whether good or bad, needs to be checked, and it starts from the top and it's being cascaded. And this also goes down to the corporate shared values, the corporate core values within an organization. Those, every organization you come in, when you go deep into their books or probably the corporate structure, you see the vision statement, the mission statement, how they intend to get there, and what are the values that will make them get there. Every organization should have that. And starting from the leadership point of view, they must be able to live by those core values and not jettison it for any reason. And if those junior leaders, junior staff sees that, okay, this is a trend within the leadership structure, definitely it's
You
going
would
to,
align.
it's a panacea for a positive.
So if I hear you
culture.
well, Biodun, you are saying it could happen. So
Yes,
there
sure.
leaders can actually sort of disrupt the plan for laying down a proper organizational structure because some of them probably have a different ideology. Their points of view could be different, from the next level of management that should cascade to the other level.
Yes.
Okay, so if that is happening, it means the culture is not going to sit well as expected.
As expected. And lastly is that we can talk about culture for weeks, and with when with other professionals coming with a different diverse view. Like this saying that the culture eats a strategy for breakfast. I think it has even moved beyond breakfast. Culture will eat strategy for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, for brunch, as even snacks. Because if the culture of an organization is very toxic, no matter how wonderful the structure is, no matter where the market place value, no matter what the pay within an organization, the culture will definitely swallow, the expectation of of new talent coming within an organization. In the course of my working experience, I joined an organization, and right from the recruitment and selection process, interview process, I could tell that this is the culture of this
So why
organization.
did you join?
Well,
I think that's the big
because
question.
yes,
That's the big question because
yeah,
I was going there.
yeah.
Why exactly did you join
Okay,
despite knowing that this seemed like a toxic culture?
okay,
Why did you go in there?
fine. In HR, we see ourselves as an
Okay, you were
organizational.
probably coming to change it.
Yes.
All
So
right.
that's a change driver. That's
All
what we
right.
call
All right. For
ourselves,
your
and at
role.
that very senior level.
And you kept recruiting people into the toxicity.
Yes. So part of what we brought, part of what the initiative I brought in is that I knew this is a
Serious situation.
serious issue I was getting myself in, and it's also a challenge because if you are in HR field and probably the HR practice, and you are not actually faced with such challenges, I won't have something like this to want to share to the larger people listening and inspire youth. And the reason I had to bring this story is that the workspace, for people coming into the workspace, you must have submitted your CV, gone for some interviews, and how do you know what are those symptoms or those you know uh, hints that you know that this organization has a toxic
That was actually
culture?
my next question.
You understand?
So I can as well put it to you. If it's okay, based on your own experience as HR and not just your experience as an HR employee, but your experience as an HR professional. Now, what are those on the tip of your fingers, 1, 2, 3 things to spot and say, I think this is a toxic place. People shouldn't go, or people should begin to plan their exits. What are those things people should look out for to diagnose a toxic work environment?
Well, it's I think it's very very relative, and it all depends on what drives individuals.
Okay.
I've seen individuals in different age brackets, the Gen Zs, the baby boomers, and people, the generation X. And it's also very, very important that what those categories of the age bands are looking for in the workspace differs. For Gen Zs and probably the millennials, they are looking for flexibility. And will I be able to work from home and everything? For middle age, they're looking for support. My family, what is going to happen to me in the next 10, 15 years, my career aspiration, with this organization be able to support my professional development. Then for the generation X in their late 50s, they're looking at organizations that can profile, probably offer them retirement plans. Okay, at that age, some might be, exposed to some health-related issues. Okay, the HMO plan, is it going to be robust enough to cater? So it's not a one size fits all. So it's based. So, but generally, how to spot, those
Toxic
those
traits.
those traits.
Toxic traits, yeah.
I don't like using that word toxic because
Okay.
most times it falls back to us in HR because
All right.
we did all the because
I know it's a common thing with the Gen Zs and the
Yeah,
incoming
yeah,
Gen Alpha.
yeah. We
Yeah,
are aware of the word, but we don't like using
you
it
avoid it.
because
Okay.
it's one of it's one of a headache within the organization that we
How
need
to draw a
to,
thin line.
yeah, align. So so many unwritten rules that as HR you have to, your organization should come first. So at the initial stage of my HR career, I was, probably always tilting towards the employees, not extremely, but as I move higher into the leadership role, I begin to understand why businesses need to take some decision and why the organization should come first. Because if you have a standing organization, that's when you can even think
Bring
of
people in.
bringing and changing culture. So, to give a figure, number one, when you one of the signs that you can notice of a toxic culture is if the staff engagement level is very, very low. What do I mean by staff engagement level? And when you enter the workspace, there is no chemistry, there's no synchronization between staff when you, because you can go for an interview, and those are the things you can also watch, probably observe how are the staff relating with one
Interacting with
another,
each other.
interacting. And if you will be very, very lucky, if a uh, probably a departmental leader or probably an executive probably address one of the staff, you can also, pick something from there.
From the
Is it? Do you come across a leader that is, screaming at a subordinate while you were there, probably during your interview process? It also speaks volume.
volume.
Then the um, what is the mode of communication during your interview stage, or probably for those that have not come in, and for those that have come in, how was your onboarding and your how have you been able to settle down? Do you have the right working tools? Were you shown your job description? Was it very, very clear and explicit? And if those things are not there, those are part of the early signs that you are in a toxic culture. Then, lastly, and this is very, very important, the reason why we work is to earn a living. And if you started hearing things like, "Oh, we are sorry we couldn't make salary payment this same day. It happened to fall the second," just know these are the
The
early sign.
traits.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for that, extensive feedback. What I heard you say, some aspects that I'll just pick and sort of highlight right now is that, yes, you've mentioned some traits, like when you come in for an interview, you assess the environment, how are people looking, how are they interacting, how are the team leads interacting with their subordinates, and you could pick some things. Then if you are initially salaries are being delayed and all of those things. Yeah, I believe those things are real. But there were some other points you mentioned. And I need to sort of check with you because you are the professional here and you need to let our viewers know. I used to feel, or I still feel that, based on employee expectations, which you also sort of mentioned that it depends on what drives individuals. So I have come to realize that certain employees feel that if my personal interests are not put forward or are not prioritized, then the environment is toxic. So for example, I'm a nursing mother, I've got twins, which I waited to have. They are precious babies, and I just don't want a nanny to handle them. I'm energetic enough to handle them. However, I really need to close at 4 for the next 3 years because of this. And my organization closes at 6 because we probably resume at 9. So we close at 6. And then, she's probably requesting. And you then say, okay, the max we can do is close at 5. We don't think we can do 4. What you begin to see is that such an employee, they are not satisfied, and they begin to go around to say, this is toxicity. That's one. When people feel that they should wear certain kinds of clothes and you feel you need to comply with the company's clothing, and they
Code
say
of
things like,
conduct,
but
yes.
but I was coming from this other organization and this is what they used to wear and there were no issues. And then they begin to say this organization is toxic. And things like that. Do you
Yeah,
understand? So
yes.
in as HR, do those things truly and honestly mean toxicity, or it just means certain people are sort of not considerate of organizations? And I'm also happy, because you're an HR leader and you've been able to say that now that organizations come first, because without the organizations, you can't even bring in people, not to talk of create culture or
Yes.
systems that you want to run with. So how do these things, I know that the latter, the initial ones we mentioned, are things that you should watch out for. But the other ones that things like, my what I want are not things I'm really getting. They are not within the company's policy. For example, you have an official car, which is not a status car. If you're on leave, you need to drop it. I know some organizations run that, while some do not. So probably I was coming from an organization that allows me to keep my car while I'm on leave. Then I get to this new organization, I'm going on leave and they want to take my car and I begin to throw tantrums and say it's toxic. Does that truly count as toxicity?
Oh, okay. This is a very interesting one because it is an interesting one because organization dynamics varies. And for an organization to be upfront in, during selection process, there are some processes and procedures that need to be in black and white. One of them is the employee handbook, and when organization which is subject to reviews based on employment
Trends,
trends and
even
what's
economic
yes, and
trends.
so because I remember when I joined as my early as ET in the banking sector. Then when in the morning you have the teacups, the saucers being served, and we just came out from the NYSC. Then very very energized by the opportunity of joining the banking sector, and we just got I don't call it suits because suits should suit your body. So we had what we are called coats then. So my boss would say, guys, go and drop your coat, you know. So the bank's policy then was for every graduate, all new hires within the branch is part of operational expense. You are entitled to a cup of tea every morning and some other beverages. But as the trend and economic reality sets in, that is why employee handbook policies and procedures needs to be reviewed from time to time. So it's also very, very important that while a new hire is coming in, that the organization needs to be transparent.
Wait, despite,
Yes. So yes.
actually.
No, the transparency level within an
Total,
organization
for
it
example.
differs.
I'm asking about total. I'm speaking
Okay.
about a situation where you're speaking to an experienced hire and you've been transparent. They've got handbook, they've got everything, and it's crystal clear. They've even agreed to it and signed documents. For example, they've signed the offer letter for their official vehicle. They've
Yeah.
read it. In fact, some organizations that I know of go as far as telling human resource to read with the person. So they don't say, I forgot to read it. I signed under duress. So you
Yeah.
read and they say, did you hear me? Yes. Okay. Are you happy to sign? And they go ahead to say yes. And within there, they've said, while you are on leave, the vehicle is going to be withdrawn back into the organization. Then they want to go on leave and they begin to act up.
Yeah. Act up.
Those are the situations. How do you see those things in human resource? Is it fair to an organization that has done that to be termed as the word you
The
don't like?
toxic. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, the word toxicity, as it has so many shades. It depends on what individuals makes of it, and why human wants are insatiable.
Yeah.
Just that when in the course of my engagement, when you are trying to onboard any staff in the during the interview process, you ask for, if there are other pets the candidate would like. Because that word human wants are insatiable, you can have a long list of what the person wants, but we need to be real here. So that's why we have the details of what the organization can do in terms of remuneration package,
Yeah.
down to other
Welfare.
perks, welfare that is ascribed to each category of the
Personnel.
role. Yes.
Yeah.
So what's if because I would like to take it at a case at a time, that if at the very very senior level, HR and the organization needs to be flexible, also know what is going on within the market space. Now, because HR is meant to be evolving, is the HR is supposed to be the ear of the executive management outside there. So you should be able to, advise management that this is what our competitors are doing. And you cannot, why every organization, there's a law saying that you cannot force a willing employer on an unwilling employee, and vice versa. So if an employee is unwilling, maybe due to some factors, some of them which you've mentioned, there's a level where the employer will have to stand by what they feel it's operational, it's what is realistic within their space. Like I said, there's no one organization that is same. So, but if you have the right talent that can fit into those space of your pay structure, your culture, and some other
Welfare packages.
benefits. So definitely, you even the companies all over the world that they still feel they have the best practice, the best remuneration.
You still get
You
people
see
that are
have, yes,
dissatisfied.
so it's not something that can be capped. And probably so. So my advice is that as HR professionals and people earning into going into HR leadership and probably HR practice, you should know what it entails for you to be able to understand the human psyche and also the heartbeat of organization. So that because HR is more like an arbiter, you play that link between convincing an unwilling employee towards your organization.
All right. Thank you for that clarification, Piotr. I'll just go to my next question here. Yeah, I think I've dealt with this. I've actually dealt with this regarding resistance. I was majorly trying to talk about resistance, where, people don't want to just naturally accept what they initially agreed to, and then there's this resistance. So it's what you've said now is that we should sort of take it per case,
Yes.
sort of give management feedback and find a way to manage it.
Yeah.
But for me, I still think those things shouldn't count as being toxic. I don't think. Do you think so?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Do you think it should count?
It
You need
should.
to answer that one.
Yeah, it shouldn't. And there's a way HR should be able to measure.
Okay.
Now, and for people that have been in HR for a while, and it's also very, very important that HR needs to be upskilling. Some of our professionals, our colleagues, you've just gotten the certification and you've relaxed, and we've been relegated to the administrative and just the conventional way of seeing HR. That's okay. We just sit down in an office, write policies and procedure. Now, HR is more dynamic and data-driven HR. That is what is part of the latest trend now. So another example, probably a solution that comes to mind is that having a survey or a job satisfaction survey or probably organizational survey. In that way, all these issues
can be addressed,
can be spotlighted, because it's possible you are just seeing a little percentile of aggrieved staff speaking out. But
Yeah.
when you have an independent survey that's been, administered, most times I always advise to be a third party company that will administer that survey so that employees on different level can actually speak up their mind and we can, like the one on handle, I made my MD a collaborator, so we were seeing the live feedback from the staff. So it's not something, okay, maybe the driver of the survey is actually inclining. No, everything is being seen live, and it will help the organization, an organization which is ready to take feedback
Yeah.
and get those feedback and act on those things before they become an issue
Detrimental.
internally. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So in assessing and measuring culture, are there specific metrics that you've been able to use to track, employee satisfaction or alignment to the culture?
Yeah, one of them is what I just mentioned now, this
Okay.
the survey, and also we can use the performance metrics. Now, the performance of an individual within the job role is also very, very important.
All right.
Like I said at the introductory part of this, my speech was that you have talent that might be doing, acing the productivity level in the former organization. And when it comes into a new organization, he or she has not been able to replicate such level of performance.
Exactly.
Now, during performance management cycle, because it's expected that the goal and the objective for that role is always set, and those goals are supposed to be smart, you know, simple,
Reliable.
measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Now, are we actually, so I always advise, because there are several ways, that's another topic on its own. There are several ways
You can
whereby
measure.
measure performance management. So, and the one I always, that's always very, very important, the 360-degree feedback, the management by objective, it entails that the appraisee and the appraiser, that the supervisor and the subordinate, have a one-on-one
One-on-one.
interaction, and they will be able to identify what are the areas that needs urgent or midterm intervention. It could be training, it could be maybe the goals or the objective are too big for the employee to achieve, because all those things has a way of affecting performance. It could also be the remuneration, maybe proximity to work. Those little things has a way of and it's also very, very important to get these feedbacks, and not just for HR to sit on the feedback, because fine, we can get the feedback, HR can have all the metrics, but how have we been able to understand data and be able to translate those data into actionable visualization for management to take actions? That's very, very important.
I cannot agree less. That's great. So how successful have you been with regards to gathering this feedback? What have you been able to implement from one of these sessions? Like, give me like a scenario where, you did it, you got feedback, and you were able to implement or make a change or improve a situation.
Okay. Um, a very, very, there's a practical experience that comes to mind. One of the organization I joined in the oil and gas sector,
Space.
yes. And during the recruitment and selection process, the first day of my interview, the office location is where we have a serious gridlock that tankers and everywhere, and such interview was fixed for 12 when the sun was was top notch. That's number one. Number two was that it was very very difficult for me to navigate down to the office environment, and when I got in, I wasn't attended to for at least for like 45 minutes again.
Hmm.
In that way, I was boiling. I felt I wasted my time. I felt also that this is an advert for the organization for me, and it wasn't a good
Speaks
advert.
volume.
Yes. So at that point, so fast forward, at that point, I made up my mind that if I'm successful in this role, I'm going to make changes. And when I came in as the senior HR business partner then, was that one of the things I looked at was to simplify and probably help potential candidates coming for an interview within the space to have a clearer view on how to navigate to the organization. So one of the things I did was to ask around what are the shortcuts. So we send
The
emails
description.
ahead of time welcoming the candidates
Candidates.
and how we are so much expectant of getting the person on board. And that way I gave three different areas, probably direction and how the person can come into the office complex. And one thing I also did was to acknowledge the fact that coming into our office complex can be very, very, very,
Stressful.
stressful. So when I did that, I realized that there was a little bit of a paradigm shift in the
Obviously.
way,
There should be.
yeah, our HR leadership, because HR is supposed to be, center of excellence and
Definitely.
business partnering.
Yeah.
So if we are looking at center of excellence, those are the ways you can make people feel. That's number one. Number two also was that like I said, there's something we call culture shock. I'm sure it's very very,
I hear of it.
yeah. So what's simply put, what is culture shock? A culture shock, is a reaction from the expectation you have in your mind and to what is actually, what you're actually experiencing. It's about the experience. Now you come into an organization and you expect that after closing hours, you should pack your bag and just leave the office. But you are in an organization whereby you have to probably meet your MD, not even your line supervisor, to meet your MD and inform him or her that you're leaving. Another funny one that I've heard is that some organization, when salaries has been paid, every employee has to go to the MD to say thank you for paying. So those are the
Never
things when
heard
you
that one.
yes, because you know,
Are you honest about
I
this one?
am I am very very
Oh
serious
wow.
about this.
Never
So
heard that
yeah,
one.
so when you come into such an organization,
Like approach the
wow,
MD to say thank
yeah,
you.
and
Oh
if you
wow.
do not
Never
do
heard that
that,
one.
that is the beginning of your failure. No matter how well you are very very skilled or probably you have the potential to do your work, it is
Wow.
going to be seen as not having the right behavioral pattern to be able to
Culture.
the
Culture is
culture.
big.
Yeah. So when you have something like that, it's what we
I can
call a culture
imagine.
shock. Your ways of expectation, your belief, then something is happening. You're like, why are things done this way this year? So that's a culture shock.
That's
So back to the question is that another major initiative that I brought on board was that then I started having quarterly
business
meeting,
review.
yeah, with new hires.
Oh,
Yes, with new hires to have,
check.
yeah, just to have a check, a feedback to reduce that level of culture shock because some are not speaking up. Some, they are not catching up faster than we thought they should.
Was this in the place where you needed to tell the MD that you were leaving? And is it everybody or management?
Um,
Stepping forward to tell the MD you are about taking your exit for the day.
No, 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 no,
Is
no.
it
I just use that as an example.
Okay,
No, no,
okay. Did you experience that one though?
no, no, I didn't.
All right, but
But
you're aware of it.
yes, because I belong to several HR group and we share feedbacks like this, and we just have to make concerted efforts towards ensuring that we uphold our professionalism and while still keeping our job. So it's at times I don't really pity. I pity most of us in the HR space because you must be able to balance what you feel as the
You
professionalism.
even need to be seen
Yes.
to be accepting it.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, it might not be sitting well.
Sitting well.
So it's a
yes.
crazy
Yeah,
experience
yeah.
to be in. Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah. So how successful has it been gathering, feedback from employees? Which one or at what point or what's your experience around implementing something positive around the feedback you've gathered from such a survey? If you
Okay.
can talk to me about that.
All right. So, like you rightly mentioned, the survey is a very, very important way of getting feedback. And when you have when if a survey is properly administered, it's going to address issues like maybe if we have any problem within the organization on talent retention, and it might lead the organization to what are the root causes and what are the way the approach that the organization can deploy. What are the immediate intervention, the mid and the long term? Now, back to the question of how I've been able to implement,
Yes, a change from such feedback.
Yeah, okay. I gave an example of how one of the organizations that I worked and how my experience during the recruitment and onboarding selection process. And I made up my mind I was going to be that change driver.
That must have been spot on.
Yes, yes, that change driver. And I think I walked up to my group general manager then in HR, and I asked to be put on that project for induction. So all new induction project ideas was driven by me.
Okay.
So one of them was that to ensure that the experience that I passed through
doesn't
during my
repeat
interview,
itself.
it doesn't repeat itself because I felt very, very uneasy that interview day. I felt very, very,
That's
very
some serious human
yes,
resource
yes. So
initiative.
I felt like yes, no staff should
go through this.
Yeah,
no human should.
prospective candidate, whether it's going to be successful at the final stage or not.
They could be discouraged.
Yes, because it's about the brand.
Yeah.
So that's number one. The number two was that after I created with a team like an induction framework.
Oh.
So like induction framework itemize what we need to do from different stages within the recruitment and selection process, from the pre, during, and post recruitment, to how supervisor we need to ensure that the candidate, probably the new staff, the new hire, settles in faster. Okay, do we regularly check back? Because most of us, we are guilty on this. Well, we HR professional, we don't follow through a new hire. Somebody resumes work on Monday. After that week of induction, we just left him or
left
her.
with their manager.
Yes, so with the manager, and the next time we are seeing this employee, maybe it's during the performance evaluation time. So I also looked at that. Then I think another thing that came to mind, I organized a quarterly session with all the new hires within a space. At times I do 6 months. For if you are within the organization from 3 months above, but less than a year, I like to get your feedback.
Oh wow.
Okay, so how do you see?
Are you faring?
Yes.
What can we do better?
Yeah, a whole lot was that. Okay, the first month I came in, I saw a whole lot of culture shock. I thought you guys were going to be doing this. Okay, so I onboarded a whole lot of some didn't intend to speak up, and I was very, very open that this session is a no holds bar.
No, not
Yes,
vindictive.
so it's not vindictive, and anything you say is just for
Yeah, for this
process
consumption.
improvement. And in that way, I was able to connect with the new hires, and it has a way of appealing to the mind of new hires, because if you
Definitely.
want to test or probably gauge an organizational structure and how their talent is doing, you have to look at the staff turnover rate. The staff turnover rate is the rate at which new hires come in and leave the organization. How well are you being able to change? And those are those factors like we mentioned. Toxicity is there, the cultural values is there. I can go on and on and on. So having an because it's also very, very important that I mentioned this, that the turnover rate per industry differs. Like the banking sector, I think it's 15%. So that's the number of your staff that leave within the organization all over the number of your average staff within a year multiplied by 100. That's how you get the percentile. Then for oil and gas sector, I think it's relatively above 20, because there's a whole lot of money involved in oil and gas. People are
So people are
always
migrating
migrating,
here
and
and
this
there. I can imagine.
so that is a very, very, and I think in terms of changes and initiative, it's a value continuum. It's something one and HR professionals need to consider based on relative trend, and the part of the latest trend in workspace now, work have flexibilities. Okay, and some organizations have started giving out starting crutch for nursing mother.
Yeah.
Yes, starting
Breastfeeding
yes,
offices.
yes. So where
Yeah.
you can actually bring your child, and they do some support. Even the maternity leave, most organizations have started having paternity leave. Yeah,
To,
to
for that same period,
no, for paternity leave. If my wife puts to
you'll be
bed,
away for 3 months as well.
no, 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 I think it's 5 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
I've heard of
5 days.
that.
Some do 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And even the maternity leave, some organization has extended to 4 months.
I heard
Yeah,
about that
so
too. I
that's
think I've heard
16
that.
weeks now.
All right, that sounds impressive. You were able to make three sort of big changes after, conducting the surveys. I think that's quite impressive. So what would be your advice to businesses, to organizations that are aiming, to build a strong positive culture? Before you respond to that, do you think, you know, organizations should rather tilt, or let me say dance towards the tune of the people, or they should focus on how the initial plan was, which is how they wanted it to be, and because the people are sort of reacting to it, not accepting it, should they go the way of the people? And does it do, if they can see clearly that going the way of the people is not what will benefit the organization, what should be done, in those kinds of situations, especially today that we have the Gen Zs. We keep lamenting about the Gen Zs. They are beautiful people. We love them, but their expectations are totally different. And now we have these new ones coming up. I hear they call them Gen Alpha. I hear they are going to be hotter. I hear they are going to terrorize us more. So we don't know yet. So, in your own view, and then to advise our viewers, what do you think organizations should do?
Okay. I think the first thing is for organization to understand the role that human capital plays in business sustainability. That's very, very important.
That's big.
Yes. So because if we see that very junior staff, if we make that very junior staff that we so-called, you know, make him or her believe that he has the tendency of rising to become the MD, the CEO of that same business, I think we'll start making the right changes. So, and So it's also very, very important to get feedback from business feedback, performance evaluation feedbacks. And in that way, we'll be able to innovate. And because an organization that fails to innovate will become moribund. It's just a matter of time. We've had stories of the Kodak of this world, Blackberries of this world, the
Nokia's.
Nokias of this world. So that is how intervention comes in, and it's also very, very important to because the human capital is very, very essential part of the business growth. So now the human capital, an organization must be able to prioritize, um, the growth, the career development growth of is the workforce. The people management. We have organizations that have changed based on these strategies of restructuring. The conventional one we hear is the HR department. Now you hear human capital, you hear people management. People organizations are beginning to, key into that aspect and that believe that human is actually very, very important.
Important. It's
And not
critical.
jettisoning the advent of the robotic world that we are going into. But we still need human to actually suggest that, okay, if we deploy the robotic system into this aspect of our business, it's going to make us productivity. That's number one. Number two is also to create a platform that encourages feedback. And that feedback, and I work in a bank, and most of us know the bank. I think they are very, very, big on innovation.
Okay.
And what actually attracted me, and I've been using that as my in my wealth um, archive, is that they created a unit that deals with innovation. And that innovation, they are focusing the Gen Zs, the very junior ones that can innovate. Once you have that idea, just go to that department, they dump it there, and they will send you on trainings. And that is why they are always ahead of other banks. So the way I'm saying, you might have, they, so now
We
other,
know them.
yeah, yeah. So now other banks are leveraging on this strategy to actually, because so it has to do with,
So that there's value in
yeah,
bringing the
the
younger
value
people on
creation
board.
must cut across.
Yeah.
You must the organization must be able to create that value chain link, because if I know that at my junior level, if I'm innovative, I'm contributing to the bottom line, and I have seen the ladder, that I have a career progression, and I
I
will
can see my
definitely, yeah,
potentials
it's the
here.
potential. So why would I want to leave,
Exit.
leave? So it's also very, very important that organizations begin to, have a paradigm shift. So, and people will not say a whole lot if they don't feel the need to. And it's also as a factor of what is happening within our competitive market. What is the market saying on talent retention? What is the market saying on some of our product? Because these people that we call staff, our FLAs, the frontline guys that go out there, feel the pulse, and get feedback from us. And lastly, is that I think, so that because I spent the chunk of my career in the bank, then was we had this net promoter score, that's the NPS score. It's another survey that actually it help us get feedback from the customers. Now we most time we focus more on our internal structures, neglecting the feedback from our customers. So that is also very, very important for organizations to stay afloat of level of productivity.
All right. Thank you very much, Biodun. It's been an extensive conversation, you know, talking about how to drive organizational culture in today's workforce. We've spoken about different age brackets, expectations, the professional perspective, which you have really, dealt with. and then you've been able to talk about real life stories, real life experiences, that you've had to sort of pass through. And I believe that our viewers and our listeners would truly be inspired by that. So for Sparks and Blues, um, what we stand for basically is we bring in professionals, achievers, people that have achieved success either in their career, businesses, or some other aspects of life to talk to our viewers to enable them get inspired in different, areas of life because people are really clamoring for clarity. We realize that our youths are clamoring for clarity around how to navigate their career, how to grow it to the next levels, and all of those kinds of things. A lot of youths are also confused. They are not sure what to do. And what Sparks and Blues is actually bringing to the table is to let people know that you can still excel as a professional. Not everybody is going to make a way through entertainment. The entertainment industry is really robust. It's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. I love music and we love, the drama and all of those things. However, we realize that a lot of youths are sort of tilted solely towards those areas. And in the past, like maybe several years ago from our parents' time, what we saw was you could see that maybe your father was a teacher, your mother was probably a nurse, or your father was a doctor, and all those kinds of things. But these days, children are growing up and there's really no focus as it were. That is why we started Sparks and Blues. They just feel that the social media should drive the life. The social media should drive the concept of what they are going to become and what is there. I want to be a content creator. I want to be an influencer. You know, they really can't explain it. And to me, I felt that, okay, at some point we're doing pen pal. We moved into whatever else and then Facebook. We are here today. In the next 20, 30 years, where are we going to be? We don't know. So we started Sparks and Blues to help take these conversations out there so that people can know that we still have the likes of professional people. That is why we brought you here today to say that someone like you that has cut through banking, telecommunications, oil and gas consulting, you are definitely equipped. You are making a living. You are running a family. I'm aware that you have three lovely children, so you are definitely successful and leading a great life. So we want people to know that it is still possible to chase a dream, chase a career, get a job, do business. And even if you still want to do entertainment, you can. But chasing entertainment with your entire life, missing it, and not getting a space in entertainment and not having something to fall back on is really causing a lot of issues in our society. It's affecting families, and we want parents to begin to speak up. That is why we have Sparks and Blaze. And for any of our guests that comes in, after we've, discussed a topic like we've done today that can help people in the workplace navigate the cultures, because the reason why we chose this topic again is because, people are falling off the corporate space to say things like, oh, I can't cope, it's toxic, it's so difficult, and all of those things, So I just wanted people to understand that it's just a behavioral system. So you could choose to behave in some type of way when you're at home. However, when you get to the workplace, this is how you should behave. So I like the fact that you were able to simplify that, even for me. It gave me a lot of clarity. And to wrap up our session today, we would usually ask, the Sparks and Blues question. And what is that? So the Sparks and Blues question goes this way. So what has been your sparks and definitely your blues in driving this initiative? What that means is tell us, start with the blues so that you can lead us to the sparks, how you came out of it. What were those pains you experienced, those difficulties or challenges that made you feel low at some point, whilst you were trying to lay down a culture in a certain organization where you worked, or maybe you consulted and you were trying to drive culture? What were the blues you faced, the challenges, and then how were you able to get results that then made you achieve success that brought forth your sparks?
Okay, thank you very much for that. Based on my experience, I've had a whole lot of moments that actually make me feel like I was on the wrong career, because at a point I felt my efforts
We're not counting.
were not counting. I was being looked down, and I know most HR who are very senior HR who actually can look back, and probably if we put a percentile to it, most times it's always very, very difficult for HR to have a seat on the executive and say the board when business decision have been taken. And yeah, so it's very, very important that I mentioned that. And those are part of my low point that I felt that
Where is this taking me?
yeah, where is this taking me?
I can't
Because
see it. It looks
I
gloomy.
yeah, I get called into management
Meetings, and you have questions like
question that
like
HR, how come people how come
I
we
know.
don't have staff? You know, a business leader is giving the excuse of not being able to perform,
I'm placing it
dropping
on the human
on the
resource
doorstep
person.
of HR because he or she cannot get staff, and we recruit the staff the base on the people management skill that he or she has deployed to making those staff leave the organization. So it's at variance. At that point, all the ideas and probably the root causes of why people were leaving were not actually being looked into. So it made me look like this is just a waste of time. You do not even have that platform for you to speak. But I took it upon myself to have, I think it's the break for me was during our strategy session. I think I was lucky enough to be in that session. And I felt it was a perfect opportunity
to speak up.
And as HR professionals and people coming up into the HR space, if you need your executive to listen to you and act up on whatever you must have come up with, and you need a fast action, you should support everything you are presenting with data.
Data.
So data is very, very important. It speaks to data don't lie.
Yeah.
So in that way, I was able to give a breakdown of the number of staff that have come in, the number of staff that have left within that FY, that financial year, the number of staff that have left for our competitors. That is where HR metrics and analysis comes in. The number of staff that have jackpot, because that's another
economic situation.
Yes. The number of staff that have left off to start their own business, and just to give a balanced perspective to that. And I also departmentalize those staff exits. How many of those sort of general staff exits do we have coming from each department, from HR, so in that way, I was actually addressing and probably solving a people management issue.
Yeah.
So it became obvious, even to the head of department, I never knew that this number of staff actually left her unit, her department within that year. And to cap it up, I did an abridged comparison, a 3 years abridged comparison. So it was very, very evident, and the management saw that, okay, this is where the problem of the organization is coming from. So in that way, there was a proposition for leadership change, and we started bringing up some innovations into HR management. So at
started
that point,
getting heard and seeing.
so I started
so that gave you
so the
some
next
sparks.
Monday, the next month in the new year, I was part of the management team, and that's actually
lush.
capped my that's the area that has launched me into the HR, and also the understanding of the business, because it's very, very important. Most times HR, we are always too far from the reality of the business. The business is not making profits, yet we are presenting a proposal for salary increment. Definitely, you're going to get a backlash, a bash, and your business executive owner will definitely
think less of you.
Yeah, yes. So it's very, very important. HR should equip themselves with the knowledge of data analytics and financial reporting. You must know what what the finances of the organization. Is it healthy? Is it nosediving?
Well, you
Is it
studied mathematics, so we understand that. Yeah, that's really brilliant,
yeah.
and I could just get it. You know, you felt low at some point due to not getting recognition
Yes.
because you felt people were not seeing value in what you were doing as human resource. And when the so-called bigger people were having meetings, I think I've seen those things. They call in HR. You sort of stand somewhere there, and they are just
Exactly.
churning questions. You know, and you could be mumbling. You could have probably done nothing wrong, but you know, the fear of not even knowing what to say and all of that. So
Exactly.
those can actually give serious blues. And I like the fact that you then said you took it upon yourself, because that's what I tell people. Moving away from your blues into your sparks lies largely on yourself. You then took it upon yourselves to work with, what am I doing wrong? What is happening? Why am I not getting recognized? Why am I feeling low? Meanwhile, I know that I have something. You then decided to bring in data to back up what you were saying, and that gave you your
Yes.
sparks.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Biodun, for your time today. It has been an exciting time talking to you about these things, and I strongly believe that our viewers out there are definitely inspired. Thank you so much for coming.
having me. Yes.
Cheers.